Live from wherever you are, folks. We're here to talk some hockey, some Blackhawks. What's up? Season 8, episode 32. Usual suspects are here. Navy blue hats and royal blue t-shirts are in. If you're in the top row, black shirts. If you're in the bottom row, that's how it's going to go. What's up, fellas? Andy Campbell here. Sean Fitzgerald, Jimmy O'Malley, the Bard. Sean, what's up? You're sporting a division rival.
I am, yes. I like the logo. It's retro. I'm not wearing it. I'm not going to get – I decided to wear it. I know you're going to give me crap about it the entire time, but –
No, just once. That's
just
fine.
once.
Bardo, how are you, my friend? What's going on?
I was hoping Sean would sport like a Patty Elnuck jersey or something like that.
Yeah, Patty Elnuck, he's a good player. Nice.
But doing fine otherwise.
Doing fine otherwise. All right, Jimmy, what say you, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing well. Just moved this weekend. So as you see, new place. Feeling like a stud. Can confirm. So yeah, that was a stud finder. I had a joke. That was lame. Anyway, thank you, Sean. I was waiting. That was your cue. That was really bad. We practiced this, but I'm feeling good.
Good.
Stanley Cup Finals, great first game. I'm hoping it goes 7.
Yeah.
So awesome. I'm really excited for how the season ends.
Yeah. So we're going to talk Hawks. We're going to talk a little bit about the Stanley Cup Finals. We want to talk a little bit about free agency. We're going to talk about Jonathan Toews. Jimmy is then going to launch in. We're going to continue our draft/prospect watch. We're going to talk about a guy named Anton Frondell, which is someone we've been waiting to comment on for a while. Now, remember, folks, if the Blackhawks aren't having dinner with a prospect, it means they're not interested, or they might just give away their 3 pick. So make sure you're following on Twitter who the Blackhawks are having dinner with, because that will tell you everything about who they're drafting.
They're just eating fruit and crap.
That's it. Snacks. Bardo, snacks, though, count?
Snacks, yes.
Okay, so
orange
snacks.
wedges. Juice
Yeah,
box.
And what you need to do right after that, immediately go to social media and overreact. That is
Exactly.
your number one task. All the Blackhawks fans, you need to go on Twitter and then immediately overreact.
If they don't have chalky milk and chicken nuggies with anybody, it's a bad day.
If you read that there is a draft prospect out there that you are interested in playing for the Blackhawks, and you find out that he's not on the list of teams that is inviting him to dinner, freak out. Okay? Okay. We just want to make that clear. Okay? DoorDash does not count.
Yeah.
All right?
Smoke is
real dinner. Anyway, sorry, we're throwing a lot of random. What are these guys talking about? Michael Misa, a draft prospect, is rumored to be having dinner with a bunch of teams. And what happened was the Blackhawks were not on that list of teams reported. All Blackhawks faithful freaked out on Twitter today saying, why wouldn't they have dinner with Michael Misa? And then it was reported by Scott Powers that the Blackhawks aren't taking anybody out to dinner.
Yeah, because they did it. They spent many hours doing interviews.
They do homework. They don't do dinners.
They met 60 prospects while they were there the last few days, and everybody does their business differently. It does not mean anything if they didn't take them out to dinner. Who cares?
0. Dinner doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
We want to go out to dinner in Buffalo too. I mean, no.
Yeah.
Let's also remember, like, probably the top 6 to 7 teams are going to meet with the prospects that are maybe the top 3 prospects, and there's really only like 3 days, and there's only one dinner per day.
One dinner.
So therefore, you can't go out to dinner with everybody.
So you got to get a reservation. It's like getting a tea time. I mean, you got to get it really early.
I'm personally a fan of 4th meal, Taco Bell. So
yeah.
What about second breakfast?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Breakfast.
Brunch is lovely.
11sies. Take them out to 11sies.
Yeah. So meals with prospects is what we're going to get on later. Gosh, I really hope they take Frondell out to dinner or we're done for. But Jimmy will get into that in a little bit. A few things going on with the Hawks. A few little tits and tats. Here a little bit of Fifth Bank Arena expansion, getting a little bit bigger. The Chicago Steel that are owned by the Wirtz Corporation might be moving downtown, or that's the plan now. So if you're getting a bite to eat on Madison and you want to watch some USHL hockey in the future, sounds like that's going to happen. Scott Gomez, 2-time Stanley Cup winner, 1-time Calder Trophy of the Year winner. Of course, you're only eligible 1 time for the Calder, but 1 Rookie of the Year in the year 2000, same year he won the Cup.
Year 2000.
That was Sean.
Yeah. Sorry, Conan O'Brien.
Anyway, he's going to be coaching the Chicago Steel USHL. That's awesome stuff. But let's talk about the finals real quick. So that's a quick thing going on. The Hawks. Game 1 was awesome. Did you guys watch it? Some takeaways? Did Bennett fall on the goalie on purpose? Was he really tripped? Is this going to be the same kind of series last year? Are you guys locked in? Bard, what do you think?
Very, very debatable whether he fell on him on purpose or not. But, look, this was a tremendous game. The one thing that you can't do is just let a game like that slip away if you're Florida. I mean, we just saw this in another sport last week with the Knicks and the Pacers, and this reminded me so much of that. You basically let game one get away, and now you are officially chasing the series. And, the stat that I heard that's been all over the place is that 14 of the last 18 teams that have won game one in overtime have gone on to win the cup. I believe the Blackhawks are one of those teams.
Yep.
I think they beat Boston in overtime.
They did. Yep. Triple overtime.
Yes.
Shaw,
so therefore, 14 of the last 18 game one overtime winners have won the cup. So there you go. This is a huge momentum swing.
Yeah, down 3-1 last night. They came back. It looks like Florida kind of had them on the ropes.
Yep.
Johnny, you think Edmonton? Obviously they've got one game in hand, but this could still go back in a split here.
Yeah, I think until the home team loses, that you're supposed to win at home. In any sport, you're supposed to win at home. Edmonton took care of business last night. They won at home. Until Edmonton loses in Edmonton, I think it's chalk right now. If Edmonton wins game 2, that's what you're expected to do. I thought it was really awesome that Brad Marchand is the villain already. He plays a great villain, and I love that.
Yeah.
I like that Skinner, after giving up the 3 goals, kind of rebounded, and was lights out after that.
Yeah.
And obviously, shout out before the game, that TNT opening to the Stanley Cup was amazing.
Money.
So shout out to those guys. And Taylor Kitsch doing anything is awesome.
Yeah.
Cool dude.
Yeah, I like Wallman giving it to Nosek there on the penalty in overtime. He wasn't shy about that.
No, yeah.
And if you're the Florida Panthers, people are going to give it back to you. I mean, they've got 3 pretty good villains there with Tkachuk, Marchand, and Bennett. I don't know, Jimmy, what did you think of last night? And are you getting up for this? Do you think Florida could do it?
I'm still in the corner of Florida repeating. Yeah. Even with the loss, they were just such a well-oiled machine in last night's game. It just felt like, 1 or 2 breakaways went against them, and Florida, dropped the series. And, our favorite player, Seth Orr, fantastic choice.
Great penalty kill, Seth. Way to get out there.
Great penalty kill. Let me pinch on Ryan Nugent-Hopkins when I have 2 of the greatest forwards in the NHL right behind me in the defensive zone. Let me just pinch, Yeah. Let's leave the guy behind me to dry. But like Sean said, you're not in trouble at all, really. Someone has to win game 1. You can't overreact to game 1. I think both of these teams, they know each other way too well, and that's perfect for an audience. You want to see teams know each other like the back of their hand and try to figure out how to catch them off guard. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing 2 teams trying to outsmart the other and seeing if they can catch them on their heels. And Edmonton got the first bout.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, I had Edmonton in 6, only because I know Florida's the better team on paper. I just think Edmonton kind of team of destiny-ish. And I also think that, we saw with Gretzky the second time he went to the finals, rematched the Islanders, and he won. Same with Crosby against Detroit. Second time he won. And then I think that's what happens with McDavid. So.
Yeah.
The first 6-7 minutes of overtime last night was all Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have closed it down early. So a split going back to Miami would not surprise me. And Florida was down 2-0 to Toronto. Sean, to your point of kind of the chalk early in the series. So we'll see where this goes. There is a game tomorrow night, despite the fact that the NHL's trying to spread this out all the way to the 4th of July. There is a game tomorrow night. It took them forever to get the series going, but I guess they know their audience. Everyone's kind of sitting with anticipation. Good stuff. Let's talk Hawks real quick. Former Blackhawk captain, 37-year-old Jonathan Toews is saying, I'm coming back, folks. And there are 10 teams to be rumored that are interested. Do we want to see this happen and not – I'm not saying, I don't want to see Jonathan Toews on another team. I guess I'm saying, I don't know. I don't want him to play 10 or 15 games and be like, I can't do this anymore. Jimmy, we're going to go to you and then we'll go in different order. But like your thoughts on Toews, there's 10 teams reportedly that are calling his agent. Is this going to be a tryout agreement? He's probably not going to sign a contract to probably get, I don't know. Who knows what people are thinking. The length of the physicals he's going to have to pass. What's happening here?
Yeah, I'm going to guess what we're probably going to see is almost like a prospect showcase for Jonathan Toews, where he's going to invite a ton of team scouts to like a rink in Winnipeg, be like, hey, here's what I can do. And they'll probably work out for 3 hours and just show them his conditioning. I'm assuming a lot of people think he's going to get an NHL contract, and I agree. I don't think he's going to even consider a two-way deal. I think he wants to get a 1-year deal, even if it's like a 1 year, $1 million, just to get to the NHL. That being said, when it comes to him and the Blackhawks, you ever watch a show or movie that has a great ending and then they run it back for a sequel or another season and it freaking sucks and you're like, why the hell did we do this?
Yeah.
That's kind of the vibe I'm getting with bringing back Toews. And I want to emphasize this for anyone listening. I love Toews. I think he's the greatest Blackhawk in Blackhawk history. Like legitimately, I think in Mount Rushmore, he's the first head on the wall. I mean, but it's just he has nothing. He owes nothing to the city and the Blackhawks, and the Blackhawks owe him nothing as well. It was an amicable breakup at the end of the 2023 season. Yeah. They gave him the spotlight. Like, hey, here's your last game with the team. Everyone understood it. We're good. It was an amicable breakup. The series is over. The movie is over. We don't need a sequel. We don't need an unnecessary final season. We're good. Let him go where he wants. I've heard Toronto. I've heard Winnipeg. I've heard Vegas. I've heard Colorado. Great spots for him. Let him go there. He doesn't fit the timeline of the Blackhawks, and that's fine. I love them to death. I'm not calling for him to go to the Blackhawks, and there's less than 0% chance he comes back.
Yep, I agree with all of that. Sean, Bardo, any comments on Taser? Are you guys just feeling similarly? Just kind of is what it is. Hey, we're rooting for you. Hope it goes well, but yeah.
I don't want him to be a shell of himself. I don't want to see that. I just hope if he comes back, he plays well enough to be like a productive NHL player and then helps whatever team he's on. But I don't want him to come back, like you said, Andy, for like 10 games and then realize he can't do it anymore and just disappear. I think if he's going to do this, finish the season and then retire. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Opendano played in Detroit for one season after all his years with the Stars. So it's fine.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's coming back to the Hawks. I think it's I think what you had said, Jimmy, about a sort of a showcase, like when you see a receiver or a quarterback, like a pro day sort of thing. I think that's what they're going to do. But, I think really the proof is going to be somebody will give him a 1-year deal, but the proof will be how he handles, the combination of games as well as practices and travel, because that's where his stamina is going to be tested. So it's not going to be tested in, doing a little, combine showcase kind of a deal. It's really going to be during the season. Can he handle it, or is he going to need, maintenance days or whatever it is?
Yeah.
So,
it'd be awesome if he comes back somewhere and just shows out. That would be. Really,
I'm rooting for him to get up to 1,000 points.
Yeah, we're all rooting for him.
I think we all are. He's a class act. He's he's going to have his jersey number hanging from the rafters at the United Center. But whatever he does from here, it's gravy for him. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. So
yeah, I agree. Well, good luck, Johnny. It'd be interesting to see where he lands, how it goes, and all that stuff. So, a couple other things on our show tonight, and we are going to come back at you Monday, by the way, and we may have a special guest. It's a real possibility. No names yet, but we'll get there. Let's talk real quick. We've been talking about free agents the last few weeks. We talked on Mitch Marner. We talked on Sam Bennett. When you think about those two, more than likely they probably will not be in Chicago or might not even consider Chicago. I think you're hearing, we talked about, hey, Hawks, get in the game for Marner. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, no, I don't want Mitch Marner. Well, it's easy to say that when you hear that Marner might not be interested in the Hawks. Well, we don't want you anyway. It's like, the girl that you were interested in, and then she thinks, you're in the friend zone. You're like, well, I didn't like you anyway. And that seems like a lot of Hawk fans' reactions. I still would love Mitch Marner. At the same time, Sam Bennett likely going back to Florida. But let's talk Brock Besser here. He's another big name. And Brock Besser might actually fit a little bit more of what the Hawks could be looking for. But I don't know. Let's kick him around a little bit. Sean, Brock Besser's played 500 games plus in the NHL. He's coming out. He had a 40-goal season last season. Vancouver, what a disappointing year they had. They were an absolute dumpster fire. 28 years old, but he plays with some elbow grease. He could be an element that would be interesting. What say you?
I say Brock Besser is somebody they should pursue. He could play. He's a right wing, right-handed shot. Plays on the top line. He can play on the top line. Mm-hmm. Like you said, he's got some elbow grease, so he can go in the dirty areas. Especially playing with Connor Bedard or Frankie Nazar. I think that helps. Like the biggest thing I've been harping on since they've got to score more goals. They need another goal scorer, somebody who can put up points and be a complementary piece to Connor Bedard or Frank Nazar. And I don't think, yes, you want to bet on internal production growth, but you need, I think, an outside factor in this. And I know I've been reading, Scott Powers put it out that the Hawks aren't supposed to pursue Marner or any other marquee free agents, but I think Besser makes sense. And I don't think you'll have to overpay him a little bit, but I think he makes sense for the plan. You're not going to give him 10 years, but you'll give him a decent amount and hope that he's still productive enough when the team's good. So I like Brock Besser.
What kind of contract, Jimmy, do you think that a guy like Brock Besser would fetch? And the Blackhawks can afford anybody right now. I mean, they can someone else out, but
I think you could get him after what is on paper a down year. I think you could realistically get him at a 7 by 7.5, 7 by 7.5.
Yeah,
he had 25 goals, 25 assists this last year, which was, I guess, technically a down year considering in the 2023-2024 season he had 40 goals. He rocked when Vancouver made the playoffs that year, and he was a big component of their playoff run as well. I'm a big fan of Brock. I feel like he's that free agent that everyone kind of just almost forgets about, because everyone's talking about, Marner. Yeah, it really is it's Marner, Bennett, and, Ehlers. But Brock Besser's a goal scorer. He's a real goal scorer. He can get to 40 goals, but I think if you give him in the right situation, in a non-toxic Vancouver situation, I think he can get you 30 goals, skating alongside a guy like Nazar or Bedard. So I would love to see if we can get him in the building for sub $8 million, but a 7 by 7.5, hell, I'd take 7 by 8.
Yes, he made 6.5 the last 3 years.
Oh, okay, so
6.5 the last 3 years.
Yeah,
I mean, and that was probably a bridge deal, trying to get to a bigger deal. But 7 by 8, I'm flipping the switch on that. I'm throwing the contract on the table and saying, please sign. I take it.
And Vancouver said they're going to walk away.
They are.
Yeah, so he's going to hit the market. I guess the only thing you wonder is that, Bart, I mean, after such a disappointing season in Vancouver, is he going to say, I really don't want to see this through in Chicago? Is he just going to be another one of those guys that just doesn't want to deal with this?
I mean, it's possible, but I mean, he is one-dimensional, so I want to be realistic about him. And yes, the one dimension that he does is the one thing that the Hawks need, which is goal scoring. But, if we're going to get deep into the analytics and the play driving and all that other stuff, that's not his game. I just wonder how that's going to age over time. Because to me, I think he might be a slightly better version of Tyler Bertuzzi. I'm just not sure if he is a dynamic enough winger or why you would need the redundancy when maybe a Nick Ehlers might be a better fit because he's a little bit more creative. And, this free agent class, we're starting to see dry up a little bit. The Brock Nelson deal happened yesterday, and it wasn't a good class to begin with. I've been a big proponent about going after trades wherever they can because they have so many assets between prospects and picks So I'm kind of right now of the thinking that they're going to be looking more on the trade market than they are on a big ticket free agent. I have that feeling.
Yeah, that's a good call. I like that call. And I want to, the one thing that kind of the grit, kind of the one-dimensional, one player who's not one-dimensional but not a superstar. I want to talk about this real quick. And Bardo, I want to come to you first on this. Is the longer that we don't hear the name Ryan Donato, the Hawks haven't extended him yet. And you're reading about extensions. You read about Nelson was extended in Colorado. Is anyone thinking that is Ryan Donato going to walk out the door? I mean, is he going to hit the market here and cash out? And why haven't we heard about this yet? We kind of thought the Hawks were going to, if they're not going to trade him, they're going to extend him. Concerns there? Or is it just kind of maybe he's not part of the plans, or are they just being quiet about it?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Hawks are quiet about everything. So to me, Kyle did make a comment today and saying that they're having back and forth dialogue, which who knows what that means exactly. But I mean, it's possible that his asking price has gone way up, and especially with the cap going up, whereas, the Hawks are trying to, maybe lowball him a little bit because, look, he had a great year, a career year in his walk year. So it's like, okay, I don't think, we're still not 100% there that you're a legit goal scorer. So maybe they think that maybe they have other plans. It's possible. So, yeah, I mean, look, and what also is happening is other guys are signing free agent contracts. So, Brock Nelson just signed. I mean, Brock Nelson's a better player than Donato, but, still that's going to be looked at as a sort of barometer.
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy, do you think that the Hawks are possibly at the place right now where Donato is trying to cash out and they're saying, we need you to come down a little bit, or who knows? I mean, if you're Donato, this is your chance.
Yeah. And Donato did come out, I think, near the end of the season. We were saying, I'm looking for my hockey home. So a little bit of me thinks it may not be the money, it may be the term. I think Donato wants term. And maybe the Blackhawks are balking at that. Maybe he's like, hey, I want a 5-year deal. And they're like,
yeah, I get
next out at 3, And I get it. I think it's a tough situation for both sides because for the Blackhawks, you want a guy like Donato around, even if he regresses back to what he was last season and not this season, because he's still valuable. But you don't want to overpay that when, you do kind of want to see what you can do with these big fish in the market. And you don't want to lock up money long term that you want to spend when you start getting competitive and you start making those playoff runs.
Yeah.
And Donato, same thing. It's clear he liked Chicago. He liked the team. He liked being here. It's just, he's 29, I believe, 29 years old. This is probably going to be his biggest payday as an NHLer. After the contract with the Blackhawks expires, he might get 1 to 2 year contracts until he retires. So, it doesn't sound contentious. It just sounds like business as usual, and they're just keeping it under wraps.
Yeah,
I think you're right about the term. I think that's a really good point because of his age, and his game is probably not going to age very well, being that he is more of a physical guy. So, putting him at, like you said, it could be a 3 for $20 kind of deal that they're offering, or 3 for $21. Yet he probably wants maybe longer term, 5 years, and maybe will take slightly less money. But yeah, I think the term is the big thing possible.
Yeah, it's a good call, Shawnee. Anything to add here? I mean, I think that they just went through this with Jason Dickinson as well, so they probably are maybe a little bit more cautious with that. I mean, they said, hey, career year, let's pay Dickinson, and now Dickinson is kind of an afterthought. Anyway.
And I wonder if they're waiting to see what, like Bardo said, everybody's signing deals. So they're being like, okay, you're running out of leverage with us.
Right.
Because if the most of the prime time free agents got more money and they're already out of there, like Donato's can't ask for more than them. So it could just be a negotiating tactic. I also think if they don't re-sign him, that's a big loss.
I do too.
Connor Bedard, identified him as one of his favorite guys. Like, everybody really commended his professionalism in the locker room and his work ethic, and a lot of guys looked up to him. So I don't I don't want to take that away from this young core they're building.
Well, not only that, if you let him walk out and, the rumblings of whatever would happen on that, I don't know what would leak, but that's a black eye for your board. It's like a guy gets 30 goals and he's 28 years old and you don't re-sign him.
Yeah.
You just don't want that.
This isn't Taylor Radish where he had 25 and then he regressed to like 5.
Yeah. I mean, I still think Donato's capable of a couple more 25 goal seasons.
Yeah.
Definitely do it with this group. And you need those guys around. He's a good player. So Cool. Well, good stuff so far, fellas. So let's get to the meat of the conversation. Anton Frondell, folks. This is a draft prospect, a Finn that we have been very anxious to hear from Jimmy on, that we've been very anxious in general to talk about. Could be a decent look for the 3rd overall pick. Jimmy, you got the slides. We're going to give you the floor, my friend. What do you say?
All right. We are talking about 6'1", 198-pound left-handed center Anton Frondell from the Swedish Hockey League. For the last 2 years, the interesting about when you see a guy play in Europe, they're all over the place. Like last year, he started with the IF J18 team, then went to the J20 team, then finally made it to the pro level, played 9 games last year with, I'm not going to dare say the name, Jugardens. I'm just going to call them his team.
Played for GG. Yeah.
I'm just going to weigh in and say that's correct.
Yeah.
I know of those names. But this year, he really showed up. He started the year injured, so he didn't get a ton of playing time, but he played 10 games with the J20 team and then spent the rest of the season with the Pro League team and really tore it up. 25 points in 29 games, 11 goals, 14 assists in the Swedish Pro League. He really, really surprised a lot of people, and he had a great playoff as well. In terms of prospect rankings, it gets all over the place. Consolidated ranking had him at 5th. Elite Prospect does not like him. Elite Prospect has him at 13.
Really?
Yeah, Elite Prospect does not like the kid. Maybe they updated, but that's the most recent Elite Prospect ranking I could find on Frondell. But, guys like Bob McKenzie and Button, they both had him at 3. Rachel Dory had him at 6. And then NHL Central Scouting, he had them as the #1 European skater, taking over his own teammate. What was his name? Victor Eklund?
Eklund, yeah.
Yeah. So late riser on him. So let's talk about a scouting report from Hockey Writers. This is from my good friend, whose name I love, Peter Baracchini. I'll go Baracchini. On March 13th, this was his scouting report. He said, Anton Frondell's strength lies in his ability to combine his strong awareness, drive, and hockey IQ with his 200-foot game. Overall, he possesses a great composure and poise at such a young age. He could work on his first few steps, but when Frondell gets to top speed, he's very difficult and tough to contain when he bullies his way into the offensive zone on the rush. With his 6'1", 198 frame, he shields the puck very well and is always showing the willingness to compete and battle in the tough areas, be it along the boards or down low below the goal line. While he can be versatile and engaging threat offensively, Frondell's ability to be a reliable defensive presence makes him a well-rounded player. Much like his ability to use his size in the offensive zone, he hounds pucks well and converges on puck carriers to force them into making a mistake and to create a turnover with his angling and positioning very well. Now, what did Peter say his strengths were? Well, he said he excels in small areas and tight spaces. He's very strong with protecting the puck. He can establish the attack and forecheck well. Strong IQ and hockey sense. He's a complete player in all zones, and he has a high-end compete level. The weaknesses, they're pretty obvious. It's not a speed issue. It's an acceleration issue. Like, he doesn't accelerate and doesn't have a great first step. That's something he's going to have to learn. He's going to have to maintain consistency. That mostly comes from his injury. Like, he came back injured and didn't play at 100%. And that was another weakness. People are worried about how long he was injured at the beginning of the year, and they're worried it might lead to more health concerns. So that's another weakness of his. Now, more on Anton Frondell from both Hockey News and teammate and former Chicago Blackhawks Stanley Cup champion Marcus Kruger. He is a teammate of Anton Frondell over in Sweden. We'll get to his comments soon. But first, Hockey News described Anton Frondell as, it's fun to see him at center. I like his approach to the game. He's big, strong, and plays hard. He has a good shot, plays a smart game, and he's very team-friendly. There's a natural power to his game. He's got the big one-timer on the power play. Now, Marcus Kruger, his own teammate, when asked about Anton Frondell, said he's got the whole package. He's big, he can skate, he can handle the puck, all that, but also he's really curious. He asks stuff, he tries stuff. So, yeah, he's not going to play with me for very long here. You're going to get a taste of him here. And then when Marcus Kruger was asked, hey, does he fit in Chicago? He said, I think he's going to be a good fit there. He's a forward that is going to be able to do it all here. Maybe in the end, he becomes a center. I don't know. But he's going to be a player that can do a little bit of everything and do it really good. I hope the Hawks get a chance to draft him. He's probably going to be early off the board here. Now, when we get to comparisons and projections, you're going to realize it's all over the place because he's hard to read. Like I mentioned, consistency and injury, there wasn't a lot of views. But Peter liked to compare him to Leo Carlsson in his draft year. Now, Ben Kerr, Last Word on Sports, on April 14th, said his game is reminiscent of Nick Suzuki of the Montreal Canadiens. Then, of course, he gave the caveat, this is a stylistic comparison, not skill and ability. Now, Corey Pronman on May 22nd, he went all over the place with his comparisons. For Anton Frondell, he said production comparable to what William Nylander and David Pastrnak posted at similar stages and slightly behind Elias Pettersson's whatever numbers in his draft season. He also said names like Bo Horvat and Anton Lundell are thrown around from this side of the coin. Now, what are his projections? Well, the Hockey Scout and Hockey News said, I see a middle six center all day. This is where it gets weird. His projections are weird because the Hockey Scout said middle six. Peter said he could be a top line, impactful center that in the worst case scenario, being a second line center who could put up 60 to 70 points. Rachel Dory said she is confident he is a first line NHL forward that can get you 75 to 85 points a season. Ben Kerr said he has the ability to be the number one center in the draft. And Pronman said if you believe in his high-end production, mature, translatable game, then he's the number one center in this draft to you, and he could easily be a top 3 pick. Now, final notes, pretty simple. Early season injuries throw cold water on a lot of projections. It's hard to read them. I mean, I saw David Pastrnak, as you saw. I saw Nick Suzuki. I saw Anton Lundell. Those are all 3 completely different forwards. So it's really hard to read him at this time just because of how few games he played due to injury. But he has a two-way game, and can be a power play and penalty killer. His comparisons are all over the place, obviously, because consistency is an issue. And I mentioned speed is not an issue, but acceleration at this time is. Now, final note, this is a recent thing from the scouting combine. They say he is a vibes guy. They say he killed interviews. This is from Scott Wheeler. He said him and Caleb Desnoyers said they killed the interviews. He's very personable, and he will fit in any locker room. Now, I know how much fans are annoyed at the idea of like, oh, who cares about personality? But you have to have a good personality to go for your skill. Like, you're on the road with these guys for 250 days a year. You should probably be friends. You should probably be easy to work with. So Frondell is described as a guy that people want to be around. He's fun to be around. And that's always a positive. You want a guy that you want in the locker room for a young team. So that's all I have for Anton Frondell. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts and comments.
Good stuff, Jimmy. Really comprehensive report. I like the vibes guy. I think the most important thing that you mentioned is he wins pucks. And I think that the Blackhawks, given the kinds of players that they have, kind of the speed machine and a lot of the smaller forwards, have no problems with a guy that's a hunter, that is going to go out and win pucks and get to the net. And if you watch any clips of him, he's got, he flies about the seat of his pants, but it seems like he has pretty good emotional intelligence as well. I think he'd be exciting. I think he'd be really exciting. I want to give Bardo and Shawnee the floor as well, too, here. What do you think, Bardo?
For me, he's the pick that stresses me out more than anything because I don't know what the hell he is. I see the talent, and I've watched him play a little bit, and I definitely see the talent. I just don't know. And this is just showing you exactly what the issue is. Is he a center? Is he a wing? Is he a first line center? Is he a first line winger? Is he a third line guy? What the hell is he? And you're picking third overall. You can't take a risk and tell me. You better be damn sure that he is going to be a top line center, ideally. Worst case scenario, top line winger. But you better be drafting a top line guy at third overall, because otherwise that is a big miss if he becomes just a fourth line or third line. Look, there's nothing wrong with what you said about him being a hunter. I think that's great, but I want a hunter to be a top line center and be a pain in the butt, like a Toews, like a Bergeron, like a Kopitar. I don't need a Ron Sutter, in the fourth line. I just don't. So
Bardo, if he's there at 3, Misa's gone, Schaefer's gone, are you taking him? The draft's tomorrow morning.
I'm trading out.
Trading down. All right, we can let you process that. Yeah.
Look, honestly, I've gone so back and forth on this. I've liked the guy one day, and that just shows you exactly what Jimmy just laid out.
Yeah.
I've gone back and forth, but that just reflects exactly what people are projecting for him. It's all over the place. So I've been all over the place. Like one day I'll be like, yeah, he's great. I want him. He's awesome. Yeah. Next day I'm like, so it's thank God I'm not the one making the pick. Thank God.
Yeah. I've seen other comparisons like Robert Thomas, Brian Costello of Hockey News had Craig Button had said if there's concern, it's that Frondell might not be ultra dynamic or have the highest ceiling. Like that's the big concern with him. Yeah, and then
he's a grown man already. Are they worried that he's at his ceiling?
Yeah, that's the big concern. And then the leg, he has, like Jimmy said, he has trouble with acceleration, and he had a leg injury. So is that going to hurt him long term in the NHL? And then, I'm reading this off. I got this information from a flyer, the NBC Sports Philadelphia website, because they think he's going to be available at 11. Elite Prospects has him 12 as of their 12th player in the draft. Although Button has him as it's Misa and him, he says, in terms of centers. So I'm with Bardo. I don't know how. I think he's all over the map. I don't know if
it's your pick. Misa's gone. Schaefer's gone.
Can I actually say something while I jump back in at number 3? I'm taking Higgins.
That's what I think I was going to say too.
Really?
I think I'm taking Higgins. I know people are saying he's smallish and they don't want him, but like you've said many times on this podcast before, Andy, up until like earlier this year, he was projected as the number 1 prospect.
He was a consensus number 1 pick. Yeah.
Yeah, just because he didn't have
he didn't have the
dominating season
at
dominating season at Boston College. He was still really good.
Yeah, I mean, he was a point per game player
point per game player in college against men.
Yeah.
That's not easy.
Point per game in Hockey East is pretty good.
Yeah. I'm just I'm nervous about him too. But if they take him, I'd be on board, but I'm nervous. I'm glad like Bardo, I'm glad I'm not making the pick.
All right, I'm going to go to Jimmy then.
If we get our guest on Monday, I think we all might become big Higgins fans.
All right. No, I'm not. I'm certainly not anti-Higgins.
Oh, I would be cool with Higgins.
He's the next guy that Jimmy's going to dissect for us and get into. But Jimmy, and we can wait till after Higgins. Maybe I should have waited to throw this out there, but it's your pick at 3. Is this guy you're seriously considering, or are you passing? Drafts tomorrow.
He's my 1A at 3 if Misa's not available. Higgins is my 1B. I don't like using the remember when this happened scenario, but I'll throw this out there. 2014 entry draft, 2017 entry draft. We had a ton of, North American forward skaters in both these drafts. A lot of rankings were all over the place. Once you get past 1 and 2, there's this big skater, forward in Europe that a lot of people are iffy on in both these drafts, and then they both get taken in the top 4, and people are like, ooh, that's a risk. Do you know who I'm referring to in both of those that ended up working out?
No, I don't remember.
2017, 4th overall was Elias Pettersson.
Yep.
2014, third overall, Leon Draisaitl. You know, these are guys that, like, you look at the prospect rankings, you know, back in the day, and I'm looking at 2014 right now. You know, Bob McKenzie had Leon Draisaitl at 4th, but, you know, Christopher Ralph had him at 6th. You know, Ryan Kennedy had him at 3rd. Like a ton of Craig Button had him at 4th, and then you go to 2017, Elias Pettersson. Bob McKenzie had Elias Pettersson at 7. Who else had him? Corey Pronman had Elias Pettersson at 17. You know, the European guys, they're hard to read because they're playing a pro game. A lot of people are more comfortable projecting a guy at a junior level because they're facing guys at the similar age, and if they stand out way better, then it's easier to project. But if you go over to Europe, where like guy like Eklund and Frondell are playing against adults, you know, they're obviously not going to play as well. Their stats aren't going to stand out, as we saw.
But he did fairly well at the pro level, but then
he did, and in the World Junior, he stood out.
Yeah, and then he goes to the Holinka against his own age group and did not do well.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of going, what's going on here? I think it's those inconsistencies that I think a lot of us are questioning.
It is. And scouts said the same thing about Elias Pettersson and Draisaitl. I was like, okay, like, are these guys consistent enough? Are they gonna adapt to North American ice, smaller ice? Are they gonna adapt to the NHL like skill level? And you know, guys like Elias Pettersson and Leon Draisaitl did.
But Draisaitl also played in the WHL. Like
he did. He
played over in Europe the entire time. He was in North America for 3 years before he got drafted.
True. Yeah. We also
well, then the other thing too is if you take Frondell, is he staying over there for another year? Or are they trying to sign him right away? I mean, he is Rockford eligible, I would assume, because there's no CHL agreement.
I mean, Kruger said, I don't think he's going to be here next year. Like,
can you convince him to play in the NCAA for a year, which I would think would be awesome.
Yeah, with NIL money, you could probably get it to work.
Get a pretty deal.
Caden Lindstrom's going to play in the NCAA.
Caden Lindstrom, yeah. I mean, Caden Lindstrom was 4th overall last year. Is that what he was?
Yeah.
And now, now a year later, he's going to Michigan State. Might be there for a year or two. I don't know. Yeah, this is a really fascinating pick. I guess if the pick's mine and Misa's gone, I'm going Frondell. I'm doing that. Today I'm going Frondell. I don't know. Denway is intriguing. I know we talked about Denway. As soon as someone compared him to Dylan Strome, I'm out. But
the hockey news did.
The hockey news did, so I'm out. I mean, that does not fit the skating that KD likes, you know, if that's the case. Hagen certainly does. You know, we'll get more into Hagen's, you know, next week. But it's a very confusing number 3 pick this year. I mean, the Hawks have had number 3s in the past. It's been Jonathan Toews. It's also been Cam Barker. It's also been Kirby Dach. You know, so it's interesting. It seems like the 1 and 2 this year, everyone knows what's going on. I mean, everyone's kind of hoping someone will pass on Misa. I just think it's very unlikely at this point. I just don't see it. But
yeah, I think it's going to go chalk, Schaefer, Misa, and then we'll see where it goes.
And we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah,
big chalk night tonight with Shawnee.
Yeah,
big chalk. I like chalk. Yeah,
big sidewalk chalk kind of guy. You know?
Oh yeah,
sidewalk chalk.
Sky blue, man. Sky blue.
You're drawing them hopscotch in the middle of the road.
Sky blue.
Will be great.
Any other thoughts or tidbits tonight, gentlemen, on anything hockey related, Hawks related?
I mean, the Ice Hawks, who I've had a chance to cover over the last year, have hired their new head coach. You know, as you know, I was a big proponent of Mark Eden. I was really impressed, but I also really like their new hire. Former Rockford Ice Hawks captain, first-time AHL coach, Jared Nightingale has been named the Rockford Ice Hawks new head man. They had a photo shoot today of the new jersey for him. If you want to know how good this guy is a coach, just look at what he did with the ECHL South Carolina Stingrays. He came in one season. He led them to a 52-15-5 record and won the championship in his 1 year in the ECHL. Like he came in and it just exploded onto the scene in the ECHL and just ravaged the league. So I'm really excited to see what he can become. here in Rockford. I mean, he obviously has the connection with being a captain of this team. You know, you hire a former captain in the in professional hockey, you got a leader on your hands. And with the success in the ECHL with young players, I see more of the same for him in Rockford. I think he when he gets his hands on guys like Aiden Thompson and maybe whoever will be in the AHL next year. I almost said like guys like Levshon, but I have no idea if he's even going to be in the AHL next year. But we'll see. I'm excited to see what he can do with the young baby Blackhawks.
Yeah.
Story I've been covering a lot this year. CHSN is finally on Comcast.
Oh yeah. Right.
They agreed to a deal. NBC Chicago is reporting today. Hopefully they're saying by tomorrow you'll be able to get CHSN on your Comcast local package. It is going to be the ultimate tier, which will cost people like $20 more per month. Those who are paying for the ultimate tier will get they've been getting a monthly credit of like $8.85 for losing NBC Sports Network, so they'll get that. And the rumor is the Cubs flagship network is going to move to the ultimate tier next year. The reason they had the deal done, even though Comcast felt guilty about charging for a network that's free over the air with a local antenna, that's just not reliable. And I've been saying it in many articles and on this podcast that it hasn't been reliable. And the price, $30 a month to stream 3 really bad teams, or $20 a month to stream 1 bad team. Now you get all 3, and you only have to pay $20 a month in addition to your cable plan. So it's a big win, I think, for the Blackhawks in terms of they needed to be on cable because like 1 million Comcast subscribers in the Chicagoland area. So they were missing that audience. And conspiratorial of me today, I think Jerry Reinsdorf, who's also a part owner of CHN, needed some good news. The Chicago Fire are going to build a privately financed stadium where he wanted to build a publicly financed stadium for the White Sox. And then Jason Ishiba, who was part owner of the Minnesota Twins and I believe owns the Phoenix Suns.
I think his brother is Matt Ishiba.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now they've signed a deal where Reinsdorf, he has the first opportunity to buy the White Sox in 2029, and ultimately they have to sell in 2034. So I think getting CHSN on TV in coordination with the Ishiba deal was something they had to get done too. Because obviously, eventually in 5 years, if they're still not on local television, maybe he's like, why the hell am I buying a team that's not on local television? I have to do this deal. So it's a good thing for the rest of Chicago sports, and for Comcast subscribers like myself, we'll be able to watch the Blackhawks in the fall, which will be very exciting. From what I've heard from other people, CHSN actually puts out some good content around the Hawks and other things. It's just nobody's been able to view it. So I'm excited for that. I'm glad everybody finally stopped clutching their pearls and got a deal done.
Yeah, no, it's about time. It's about time. It
Sean,
shouldn't be necessary to watch your sports teams. It's just so stupid.
Sean, how's it feel to know that you played your part in finally getting the deal done with all your articles?
Big role.
I mean,
you put the pressure on, my friend.
The squeaky wheel gets it done.
There you go.
I have a relative that's a business associate of Danny Wirtz, and I was like, have you mentioned this to him? Like, this is crap. Like, I kept getting in his ear about it.
Try to get on the inside.
Yeah. So
get into
his
ear.
I will not be able to get Danny Wirtz on the podcast. Just saying.
Good stuff. No, it's good. Hawks we'll finally be able to watch some games. It'll be great. Well, good stuff, gentlemen. Quick shout out to Dan Muse being hired by the Pittsburgh Penguins, just for the fact that 20 years ago, Dan Muse was an assistant coach at Milton Academy, which is in the league that Brooks School plays in the ISL. He was a Division III hockey player at Stonehill, then was an assistant coach at Williams College Division III, then won a national championship as an assistant coach at Yale, and has just worked his way all the way up. And 20 years later, he's the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's pretty cool. That's really, really cool stuff. He's not just a guy that, former player or someone who was grandfathered into an organization who needed a job. You know, this guy really, really works at it. So cheers to Dan Muse and getting that head job in Pittsburgh. That's neat.
My friend
Anyone
that I
want
knew-
trivia?
Trivia. Who's got you got one, Bart?
Bardo.
Hey, it's my turn.
Do it. All right. Trivia. Bardo style. Here we go.
In the spirit of the time of year we're in, which is the Stanley Cup Finals and the NBA Finals, in history, 13 U.S. states have had teams that have won both the Stanley Cup and the NBA championship, not necessarily in the same year. That's the key. So 13 U.S. states have had teams that have won both the Stanley Cup and the NBA championship.
Okay.
Name the states, name the teams.
Illinois, Blackhawks and Bulls,
One.
New York, Rangers, Knickerbockers, and Islanders, I guess you could say.
Two.
With 3.
Florida, you have the Miami Heat and both Tampa and Florida Panthers.
Yep.
There you go.
3.
California, Kings and Lakers, and Golden State Warriors. So there's 4.
You said
Oh,
Kings,
Massachusetts.
Lakers, Warriors, but you're missing one.
Oh, do we have to name all the teams too?
Yes.
Kings, Lakers, Warriors.
Ducks.
Ducks.
That's it.
Yeah.
4.
Then you have
Next.
Massachusetts with the Bruins and Celtics.
Yep.
5.
Texas.
Michigan.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So I was going to say Michigan with the Pistons and
And
Red
Wings. Yeah. Then you got Texas with Houston and Dallas Stars. Houston Rockets, Dallas Stars.
Yep. Hakeem the Dream.
Yeah. Let's see.
So we have 7.
So we have
Actually,
6
sorry.
to go.
I'm sorry. I screwed up the I'm reading my notes. I screwed them up. Hold on a second. Yeah, there's 10. I'm sorry. There's 10.
Oh, there's
Okay,
10.
so 3 more.
Okay,
Okay.
3 to go.
Yeah.
we got Pennsylvania with the Flyers and
Yep.
the
Yep.
Sixers. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
So
2
that's-
to go.
It's 8.
No, that was
Number 1.
Did
There's
Florida.
one that's very hard. I'll tell you that much.
Do both teams still exist?
In one instance, they do not.
Okay. Is there any former NBA franchise that has won it in Carolina? No, probably not.
No, Charlotte has never won one.
No, Charlotte's never won one.
Yeah, no, they never won.
Well,
There's still 2 more. Yeah.
Missouri has the St. Louis Blues and the St. Louis Royals. Was that
St.
the
Louis
one?
Hawks. But yep.
Oh, yeah, Jimmy.
Yeah.
It's a hard one. And then there's one more, which is, I think, fairly easy.
Fairly
I didn't
easy.
hear anybody say.
Jimmy,
Wait.
that was huge.
Does Ontario count? Because that's the Maple Leafs and the Raptors. Does that count?
Not a state.
Not a state.
Uh,
Despite what the president wants, not a state.
Okay. I didn't know if you were trying to sneak that one in.
Nope.
It's not New Jersey. No.
Nope.
It's not Utah. It's not Oregon.
Not Nevada.
Colorado, Denver Nuggets,
Colorado.
Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah,
There you go.
Denver
Yeah.
the Nuggets.
Good one. Jimmy, that's lights out with the Royals.
Yeah.
Well, St. Louis Hawks. Now they
Also,
are.
really,
Either way, that's pretty sweet though.
I
they
failed
were
to
the
mention
very
this.
first NBA champions.
I failed to mention this during the Dan Muse talk. There were only 3 NHL or 4 NHL head coaches who have won the Clark Cup in the USHL before reaching the NHL. John Cooper with the Green Bay Gamblers.
Montgomery.
Jim Montgomery.
Oh, he hasn't won a Stanley Cup though. Yeah.
No, but they've reached the NHL as
They've-
coaches.
Yeah, gotcha.
Blashill won it with the Indiana Ice, and now Dan Muse with the Steel.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Chris
Yeah,
Peters
Indiana
tweeted out
Ice.
yesterday.
Yeah.
And then one other useless trivia here. June 5th, 1985 is 40-year anniversary of the day when Ferris Bueller attended the Cubs game.
All
Today.
right. That's actually kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of June 5th, I got to give a shout out. My brother, 30 years old today. Congratulations, you old
There you
fart.
go.
Happy
10
birthday,
years
Tom.
younger than Ferris's big day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Bardo's high school graduation year, right? You 95, Bardo?
High school graduation was 1994.
94.
Oh,
Jeez.
Yeah, it's rough. 98 was college graduation.
Gotcha.
I'm old.
Yeah.
Punk.
Great school graduation was 98.
Well, good stuff. Save Ferris, everybody.
Hey, Ferris.
Save Ferris.
That's an awesome. Yeah. For the trivia. Well, good show tonight, folks. We are back Monday at 6 Eastern with a special guest who will be announced at the show. So please show up 6 o'clock Eastern Monday night. We're going to
may even tweet it out beforehand.
Maybe, yeah. We will get on socials. You'll hear all about it. And then we will hear from him, probably on James Hagen's. And then Jimmy will have a little rundown as well. And we carry on. All right. Enjoy the finals. Enjoy the weekend. Andy Campbell, Sean Fitzgerald, Jimmy O'Malley, and the Bard. Good to see you guys. And we'll check you all later, folks.